middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. We have no Great War, no Great Depression. Our Great War is a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives.
And right. Come out. Right. Right. Circle left.
Stand still, huh?
Get ready. 1 o'clock. Good. 12. 5 to 3. I got mixed up.
There is no way that you could have been as bad at hockey as you are at golf.
All right, let's go. You like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing.
I just noticed my own, like, strange subconscious connection with that.
Yes.
Because it starts with Fight Club.
Yes.
And then we have fights going on, and it's always violent. You realize that.
That is the pugilistic opening to Hi, I'm Mark.
What's my religion got to do with it? And I'm Tom.
Nothing at all. And we are
the Cinemaniacs.
How are you?
I'm good.
There. Are you now?
I just made it rough back. Either a spoiler alert or something like that. I won't be here next week. I'm sorry. So I'm actually on vacation this week. I made the mad dash in just because I didn't want to leave you alone with him. But I'm not going to be able to see a lot of stuff. So we're going to take a week off.
We will take a week off.
And actually, something else might be happening around Cheshire TV. Do you think? Do we let them in on that? Or?
Yeah, let's tell everybody, because this will be a fun little game to play if you're a regular
Because we only have
viewer.
7 movies to talk about. You can tell.
And you don't want to know how many of those movies I've seen. So in lieu of that, I'll devote my time to talking about this. Cheshire TV is temporarily moving out of the space we've had for these many decades, including one that is the actual decade we've been presently alive for. And we will be, this doesn't matter to anybody, and people watch us all over the country.
That's right.
To anybody other than the folks in Keene, but we're moving across the parking lot into the basement of the library, so it'll be much like a casino. No windows, we won't know what time of day or night it is. The studio space will be different, so this show may look different when you see it the next time. May look better, may look worse. Unfortunately, same 2 faces you'll be seeing next time,
it's the bad
depending
part.
on what it looks like. So yes, we'll be moving. So that's actually fine timing-wise that we won't be here.
Cool.
If you like the shows where we talk really, really fast and basically just give a basic overall impression of films, then next week you'll really enjoy the next week we do, because we'll have probably about 30 movies to talk about in 58
about right.
minutes.
Yeah.
Unlike this week.
That's right. True.
So I watched legitimately one movie this weekend.
Well, perhaps you should introduce that one.
Should I? This
Yes.
isn't the one that I watched.
Oh, it
but
isn't?
I'll
Well, I'll
introduce
do.
I'll
Okay.
introduce it anyway.
Okay.
Let's have fun with this. So, who are you going to call when you have a creepy doll in your house that is being creepy and vengeful and murderous and overall not germane to the situation? The Germans got nothing to do with it. You want to talk to somebody named Annabelle, and it's called a prequel with Creation?
Oh, you better watch
And if you've never seen The Exorcist, I bet this is fantastic. I don't know. I didn't see this, so all I can do is ask you probing questions.
Well, you probably, I mean, if you're watching the show or if you're a big fan of horror movies or something like that, you're probably aware of Annabelle and The Conjuring and all that kind of stuff. This, as you said, is a prequel to the prequel. We're working our way backwards, I think, as far as we possibly can. If you're familiar with the story of Annabelle, it's probably because Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were these demonologists and ghost hunters, they have it in this little glass case. I've actually seen it. Our paranormal investigative team went down and spoke with them and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, it's in a case. Don't open the case and touch it. You'll get possessed. Blah, blah, blah. But so my understanding was the second movie of these Annabelles explained how these college girls found the Annabelle doll, in which like Satan is living in it because wanted to get a host, blah, blah, blah. And they ran into trouble and they contacted the Warrens. So that was the prequel to all of this. This takes place even beforehand. And so how they know...
So the next prequel is about like a spooky tree?
Yeah, right, that's what they're creating when they're making the doll. So anyway, this is just another reason, and it's okay. It's rated R. There are some pretty frightening moments. R for violence. Is there any language? I can't recall bad language, but it's R for violence. The folks at the theater said that little kids, and what you're doing taking a little kid to this, I don't know, were running out screaming. So they were really scared by it.
That is the best advertising a horror movie
Probably
can have.
so. Now, so I went into this thinking, okay, this might be fun. It's rated R. Maybe it'll take some more chances. The vast majority of this are, and you and I have talked about the difference between scares and startles. And this is all startle. Ooh, something's quiet, and ooh! And
That's
editorial
not scary.
jumps. It's not scary at all.
That's a physical reaction to a stimulus.
Yeah. There are moments that are sort of suspenseful and interesting and well done. It's a well-shot film. Overall, the most positive thing I can say about this is performances throughout are really solid. This is about the backstory becomes there's these folks in like the 30s or 40s or something like that, and they have a young girl, and she is killed in a pretty frightening, you don't see a whole lot, but it's a pretty startling moment. I had difficulty being a filmmaker understanding how they shot it without killing a little girl. And after, it's pretty easy to figure out in retrospect, but it's a powerful moment. So their little girl gets killed, and 12 years later, for some reason there's a lot of 12 years going on in this movie. 12 years later, these people try to decide that maybe as some penance, they are going to take in these foster girls. And it's all religiously based, of course. So you saw in the trailer, there's a sister, a young nun, who is with them. And so this family takes them in, and of course, as the mother finds out and says, oh, we just gave the doll exactly what it wanted, some young girls to take over. So it's all about these girls finding, one in particular, finding this doll and how the doll takes over and everything like that. Mostly startling, but again, there are like 5 young girls, as young as like 8 or 9, and then aged on up. But even the really, really young girls are really good. So I found that interesting. I thought performances overall were really strong. The story, nothing too clever, but what do you want from a horror movie?
This was one where I only really had, due to the impending move we have here, it was due to the move.
You blame that?
I only had, I actually had a family reunion this year too. I climbed a mountain. I chose to it was a coin toss as to what, and this was what I was going to see. And then I was like, I haven't liked any of these Conjuring movies, so I'm going to go with the Crying movie instead.
Okay.
So I did not see this. And it's one of those things where I love the horror genre, but I hate 90% of what I see that's new because it's just the same thing over and over again, and it's jump scares, and it's hard to look at and all that. What I will say for the Conjuring series is that they are well photographed when they don't decide to shake the camera. It's usually well done, and they do have a nice sense of place and atmosphere. It's just that they don't work for me. Now, part of the dumb part of me actually still does want to see this, but I'm frankly not going to go out and pay to see this, so we'll see what happens in the video world.
Right, once it comes around.
Speaking of everyday average horrors in structures...
You saw it if you'd like to introduce it.
Oh, okay, I get to. I saw like nothing else this week, so hey. Woody Harrelson stars in a true life tale of an unconventional family matriarch and patriarch who put their kids through all sorts of shenanigans in hopes of living a life that is free from the bounds and tethers of society, and certainly free from Pokemon, while they pursue their dreams of residing and building the Glass Castle. So, this is a drama with some light moments, but pretty much a drama. Not a lot of laughing in this movie.
Right.
As I said, crying. When I was telling the guys at the theater that I chose to see this at, I said to them, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with the crying movie. And one of the guys was like, it's not that kind of movie. I'm like, really? Was it a comedy? Because it looks pretty serious. And he's like, no, there's no crime in this movie. And I'm like, oh, sorry. He said, and it was great. Dad said, there's no crime in this movie unless it's a crime of the heart. And I'm like, oh, it kind of is. So you have Woody Harrelson, who's this anti-establishment, yet very conservative looking, but anti-establishment guy who's lives off the grid, and they basically go from town to town and squat. Not that way. They occupy houses that aren't being occupied by anybody until they're being run off by bill collectors or revenuers or whatever. And the mother is Naomi Watts, is this sort of free spirit artist, and the kids are sort of on their own, more or less. They're not being raised terribly well according to most conventions, and it's 3 or 4 little kids of various ages and genders who are trying to make it on their own. The framing story is Brie Larson is in 1989, same year as Atomic Blonde, by the way. 1989, she's a successful writer for a New York magazine, kind of embarrassed by her parents who are living in New York and about to be engaged to a very straight-laced guy, and it's the whole culture clash and all that.
Time to meet mom and dad.
Exactly. From that, we're flashing back to her youth and all this.
You said the F word.
I said
Oh
what?
my God, you said the F word. Flashback.
Flashback? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Flashback, flash forward, flash to the side, flash over to the diagonally to the left. In the theater, I was the youngest person by decades, which is totally fine.
Right.
I love
But
it when
it
old
just
folks have a movie
surprises me
to see.
that it had that so direct an appeal for what we'll call as an elderly audience.
Well, it's interesting because so little in the theater is aimed at people who aren't 14,
Right.
And male.
Oh, so maybe that's
that. Once in a while you get a straight drama, and people who don't want to see lasers and explosions are like, yes, thank you, we're
Right.
drowning
Especially in
in
the
the sea
summer,
superheroes, and it's great, cool. I think movies for grown-ups are nice. They tend to be the better stuff that I see most of the time. So. I didn't think it was a brilliant film, but it held my interest the whole time. It pulled at the heartstrings at times. It was interesting to see just how are these kids going to make it out alive of this scenario.
Okay.
It reminded me in a way of a film called The Prize Winner of Defiance, Ohio, that had.
Don't know if I've ever heard of that.
It's based on a book that I had read, and it was about a woman who had sort of either an alcoholic or abusive husband and a lot of kids, and they were struggling to get by, and she entered all of these mail-in contests, writing jingles, writing poems, and she basically won all of these things.
Story sounds familiar, at least.
Either to trade for cash or to keep her family afloat by winning all these things they needed. It's a really great story based on a true story. This reminded me in a way of that, where the father figure in the house is not doing his job very well, and everybody else has to kind of figure out a way to make it work. Only in this case, both parents are. Sorry, I spat upon you. Both parents are not quite doing what they should be doing, but whatever. So it does feel familiar to other things I've seen, that movie in particular, but others as well. But everybody in it is quite good.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of on the fence with Woody Harrelson because sometimes he puts on an accent where I'm like, does he have marbles in his mouth or does he actually talk that way?
He's not like Jeff Bridges, at least.
Yeah,
True Grit.
yeah.
It's not that bad.
So it's interesting. I don't see this as something that is going to linger in the memory for a very long time, but certainly if you want to go to the movies and you look at the 6 things that most theaters have on offer, this one doesn't feature CGI characters, talking chimps, though I liked that movie, it's talking people.
Right.
It's people talking, it's real life. So, and it does something at the end that I like with true stories, which is you see the actual people in stills and video footage, and it's kind of interesting to see, how close the film was to real life, or just to get a sense of the reality behind this. So overall, I thought The Glass Castle was good. I would say bring Kleenex, and don't expect to smile very much.
I didn't find it that tear-jerky. It certainly was more serious than I expected it to be. The trailer makes it look like, woohoo, hey, we're out and having some fun.
Not really.
I love Naomi Watts. I'm to the point where I'll go see a movie just because she's in it. I like Woody Harrelson a lot, and pretty much the same thing. Been a fan and a growing fan of Brie Larson. I found her character, and this is kind of not the point of the movie, but her character is there to be the catalyst for this discussion. I was annoyed by the flashback format, but that's kind of just the way the structure of this film is. So unfortunately, I liked Larson's performance. She's a wonderful actress. I just didn't like her character. And I think that's probably more a tribute than anything else. Yeah. In many respects, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, but so yeah, you're right. Performances overall were really strong. I've seen this story before, and I left with it not thinking I'd learned anything terribly new. But as you say, if you're sick of Caped Crusaders and all of that, this is a film that is for adults, and I think is directed at adults. And I thought I enjoyed The Glass Castle.
While you were talking, not that I wasn't listening, I have a theory that could make this more fun for everyone involved. Let's say...
Well, watching our show?
Oh, God, no. There's nothing that can help that.
That's true.
Let's say that the character Brie Larson played in Kong Skull Island was the same character from this movie.
Right.
Because if you look at the timeline, it might actually work.
It could possibly work.
So
sure.
she was a photojournalist in high school in this film. She leaves town to go to New York. Then you have the entire Skull Island film, and she has those adventures. And then why she's so cold and uptight and shut off to the world emotionally in the modern day era of this film is because of the stuff she saw on Skull Island. You don't come back the same
That's right,
from
you
Skull
don't.
Island. So I would like to think for anybody who's seen Skull Island, and if you go to see the Glass Castle, maybe now you want to, go and just mentally insert the events of Skull Island into the middle of this film.
If I have some free time, I'll try to cut both of them
Could you?
together. Because if you go online, this isn't necessarily a push, but Don Cheadle was in both Hotel Rwanda and Hotel for Dogs, and I cut together a trailer for that. Hotel Rwanda for Dogs. So we could try that with Brie Larson.
We're just trying to make your experience better.
And we're kind of shuffling because we got a lot of time.
Some people would say you were nuts, though, if you did
Well,
that.
yeah, and I am kind of nuts, but neither one of us had enough time necessarily to see this. We're leading up to the fact that neither one of us watched this. So here's a public service announcement. For those of you who were big fans of The Nut Job, well, they're back. But their whole existence is being threatened by the mayor, and the mayor wants to level all of the forests out there. What will the forested creatures possibly do? Because they want a new amusement park? I don't think that's going to work. Our friends, our little furry friends from the Nut Job, probably thought that the city who wants to do this is nutty by nature. Wasn't crazy about the first one.
No, I
It was
didn't like the
okay.
first one. This one looks like it could be entertaining.
Okay.
It was not playing locally for the amount of time I had to spend
Right.
this weekend on films. I always wonder, let's just criticize something we haven't seen. I always wonder with any animation if it's a benefit or not to have recognizable actors doing the voices. Because for
Right.
me, I would start thinking of what they look like and other things they've done or the characters they've done. And in the old days when it was Looney Tunes or Mickey Mouse or whatever,
Right.
Hanna-Barbera, the voice you heard was, hey, that's who that character
all
is. It
Mel,
wasn't
right,
making
yeah.
me think about Will Arnett and the other roles he played. So I think somebody thinks that's a way to attract people into the theater, but I don't care who's doing the voices in my cartoons. I want them
we've
to be
talked
good
about
voice
that-
actors.
We've talked about that before. Again, I didn't see this either, but if it's something, I mean, I'm projecting that if I had gone to see this, I think the fact that it might be somebody I know would help me get through it a little bit
It
better,
might,
especially if it was bad. Yeah, I've never understood why they push that. Because even for kids, are the kids going to know that it's Will Arnett? Are they going to know that who it is? Probably not. So anyway, The Nut Job 2, didn't see it. I did, however, get a chance to see, and that's what's in theaters. So what do we recommend necessarily? That's kind of a tough one.
If you're a grown-up,
I think it's got to be The Glass Castle.
I would recommend The Glass Castle.
Right.
I would recommend, well, I wouldn't recommend anything. I would just say that if I was in the greater Brattleboro, Vermont area and wanted to see a film, I would go personally
I think by far
to the Latches.
the best place to see it is
Not
the
only the only theater in the greater Brattleboro area, but our sponsor who presents these films to us to present to you, and it's a cool old theater. So seriously, if you're traveling near Brattleboro, you really want to go and see something, at least in the main theater there. Now we're talking about that which people could watch on the home video platform or device of their choice.
However you might get it. We
And
don't know.
I rudely interrupted you
That's quite
for
fine.
your preamble to
That's
this.
quite all right. I'm used to being interrupted. Happens all the time at home. But Amy Schumer is back. If you're a big fan of hers, I'm not necessarily, but strangely enough, went to see this in the theaters, and so I'm recounting from what I remember from at the theater. But she's about to get married, and her fiance dumps her. Like right at the last minute, they got this. She has this huge, amazing vacation planned to just a paradise island where everything's going to be wonderful. And so she opens it up, hops on Facebook, offers it to anybody. Please come along for a free trip to paradise. Nobody can make it except for Mom. So Goldie Hawn joins Amy Schumer, and they go along to a wonderful vacation. Unfortunately, the real problem is that when they're there, they get snatched.
Through 6X at snatchmywaist.com. Use promo code snatchmywaist for 15% off.
Okay.
So I didn't see this. by
I saw
choice.
this in the theaters, and I'm going to get myself in trouble because, and I'm going to try to get myself out of it.
The opinions
But-
expressed by Tom Cook are not necessarily those of the
They're just
Cinemaniacs
mine,
organization.
okay? I didn't find this funny at all. I love Goldie Hawn. She's been in loads of comedies that I just love. I don't like Amy Schumer, so it's kind of a balance. I was looking for this. And when I saw this, and I believe I said this when we were doing it, reviewing it in the theaters. The theater was about half filled. There was one other male in the theater, and he was like 8 years old.
Oh,
So-
perfect audience for this.
So loads and loads of women, they all seem to have a great time. So that's my basic comment. Our
target
job
audience,
is
yeah.
here to be here and say, if you as an audience member are of this persuasion or whatever the case may be, will you like it or not? So they all seem to love it. I thought it was trite, and I'd seen it a zillion times before, but for guys. Take two guys and put them in the same situation, that's what I've seen a million times. So is it fair to criticize it that I've seen it a zillion times? And this is probably the first time for the women. Ultimately I'm saying this is a women's night out. This is their chance to go off and be silly and stupid and do all of this kind of stuff that we've seen the guys do for decades. So,
but what I always say is that doesn't make it fresh or good.
No,
like if it's a dead horse that is dust at this point from being beaten so much, and you do it with women,
right?
It's still a lame concept. It doesn't make it any better.
But in retrospect, so my thoughts were, the women who were in this audience probably didn't go with their guys, whoever they may be, if they to see the male version of it. So it might have been fresh to them. So ultimately, I found it, unfortunately, and I love Goldie. I thought it was really kind of trite, and I'd seen it a million times. But ultimately, everybody else in the audience seemed to have a really good time. I felt awful for this woman sitting next to me because it was relatively packed. I had nice seats in the middle. And she came right as the movie started. Oh, are these seats taken? No, not at all. Please have a seat. And she would start laughing, and I'm just sitting there not laughing. And so I feel sure that she stopped laughing because she could tell I wasn't having a good time. So if you're out there and you remember me, sorry about that. But yeah, so anyway, I wasn't crazy about Snatched. Sorry.
I'll recommend a film entitled Snatched, directed by the director of the film that I'm about to talk about.
Yes.
Which I will say when he made good movies. Okay, so
you like dogs? Sorry.
It's a fine film, and it's a title that you can get in trouble with, and I love that. Here's a film starring Charlie Hunnam about a legendary king of England and his rise to power and meaningful destiny with a thing that was lobbed from the watery lady. It's Guy Ritchie's take on a well-known tale. You might have seen it in Excalibur or any number of other films, First Night. And it is entitled King Arthur, The Legend of the Sword.
Cash benefits for keeping yourself in shape for not smoking.
Oh.
So when you see a trailer like that,
yes,
which our YouTube viewers won't be seeing, just by the way, look it up.
Strangely enough, since I take them from YouTube, but exactly.
When you see a trailer like that, you realize why films like The Glass Castle are important to have as counterbalance.
Right.
Because that looks like a bunch of stupid crap. I saw this in the theater, liked Guy Ritchie's earlier work, haven't liked a lot of what I've seen. After a certain point, I just wasn't into him anymore. This is the kind of movie that if you joked, oh yeah, Guy Ritchie's going to make a King Arthur film, in your head you would joke that it was this.
Yeah.
So your King Arthur lead is like a Cockney geezer, and he's got that looks like he just came out of the hipster barber shop with the buzz cut and everything, and all roided up and everything, or just a buff dude, which for the ladies and gay men is outstanding, and I got no beef with that. I'm just saying it's just a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like he just walked out of a jeans or a perfume ad, and he's got the multicultural band of brothers or whatever who become the Knights of the Round Table, not to give anything away, and one or more people know foo. I'm all for the foo, but when it gets inserted in something like this, it seems a little silly.
Right.
Overdone, fairly junky CGI at times. The only thing I really liked about this, because I just thought it was silly, and the action was almost impossible to watch because it was way overdone and just super stylized and foolish, was Jude Law as the bad guy.
Yes.
As the evil king who has basically sacrifices people or loved ones or loved objects to these weird, slithery snake women, mermaids in the basement, which are really well done and creepy, and it's just a neat concept. And there comes moments in the film where he needs to renew his power or youth or something, and he has to decide whether he's going to do these really, really dark things to be able to maintain power. And when he does it, you can see the turmoil in him that, oh my God, what I'm sacrificing to stay on top of this. That element of the movie I thought was really well done. The Arthur stuff, it just felt silly. I didn't care for it.
I agree basically completely with you. My feeling was, and since we just recently talked about the Annabelle thing, I see a correlation to that. I'm not a big Arthurian legend buff, but I know a decent amount about it, and so I couldn't I couldn't congeal these two storylines, the King Arthur storyline with Jude Law's storyline. So I found, as you said, I thought as soon as Jude Law came into it, he's a fine actor, and I like him a lot. So the movie became a little bit more interesting going on. And you're right that the snake women were creepy as all get out. But I just kept thinking, what's all this stuff got to do with poor Arthur? He's just down on his luck and can't get a job, but then he can pull the sword out, and it just felt so convoluted. I thought back to so many of Guy Ritchie movies that I like. I don't think he's a great director, but he's done some better stuff. Yeah, in the long run, I found this King Arthur version to be among the least interesting.
Now, as far as King Arthur is concerned, for all his faults,
yes,
you would never say that as a youth he was ineffectual or not strong.
Well, and we probably wouldn't have any evidence of it because when he was young, he probably wasn't writing it down
Probably
or anything
not,
like that.
no.
But one kid who was, read right in there, the Heffley family is back. And they've got to go visit their aging grandmother. She's going to have her 90th birthday in Chicago. Great town, great place to have it. But on the way out there, our young entrepreneur, who is kind of a wimpy old kid, wants to go off to a video game convention. He's got to find a way to get there. But in order to get there and drag the whole family, it's going to be a long haul.
Of the smash hit home video games that just keep coming.
Oh, and we're back.
Just talking about Blade Runner. Hi.
I saw this and thought it was fun. I feel bad that Alicia Silverstone is now a mom. I'm not getting any older. What happened to Batgirl? Batgirl getting older and playing moms and stuff like that. Yeah. These are light and amusing. I mean, it's not Citizen Kane, so it's a silly summer romp aimed directly at the kids, but as is my wont, I like to see things that are clearly aimed at kids, with the possible exception of animated things. But theaters, studios like Pixar will get enough in there for everybody. But this has stuff in there for everybody, and it's not just the parents think kids are stupid and that kind of stuff. But the goal is the kid to go off to a video game convention, which is fun. I happen to find that amusing. So I was surprised that how they can keep these going. Strangely enough, as I was watching this, I started thinking about Saw. And because one of my comments about Saw was they're on like the 6th or 7th Saw.
Right.
But they keep it going. I find the Saw is still continually interesting. And I think this is the 3rd Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I like the first one. They keep them going. It's the same old thing. So I thought Long Haul was fun.
It's interesting to me that you can keep a series going and replace the leads. Because, I mean, the kids are really the leads in these films. The parents are the same. It's almost like the vacation movies. There's a different set of kids in every movie.
Yeah, I don't think an 8-year-old kid is going to say, wait a minute, that's not the same actor. I hate this movie, whatever.
Well, that's curious to me. Like, if there are kids who are fans of these, I wonder how they take it when suddenly the lead wimpy kid is somebody totally different.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. But
it's like when the band switches the singer. It's like, well, the music still sounds the same, but that's not the guy.
What you might think about it is like James Bond. How many different Bonds have we had? I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
I did not see this.
Okay.
And in keeping with that theme, I did not see the next film, but let me give it a shot introducing it, shall we? What's it called again? Yep, that's what it is. Okay, so some bad guys kidnap a lady, which is not a very nice thing to do, even today. Only to find out that they probably shouldn't have kidnapped this lady and or done it or taken her to, depending on how this film actually is, the house on Willow Street.
You want to take a look inside?
Sure.
Nice.
Ooh, complaining about dinner, bad dinner, something like that.
Well, geez, that looks interesting.
Yeah, I guess you have to hope you don't have epilepsy or anything if you're watching
the trailer.
Particularly that trailer.
Is the movie any calmer in how it presents its horrific moments?
Not in how it presents its horrific moments.
Okay.
It's not certainly that jam-packed full of all this. I saw this at a local... it's a video store, video record store, all that kind of stuff.
Wouldn't be Bull Moose, would it?
It wouldn't be. Well, it would be, but I can't say that.
We can.
Oh, can we? I guess we can.
I like Bull Moose. I love Bull Moose. I wish they'd sponsor us, actually.
Yeah. But yes, it was at Bull Moose. And so I saw that on the wall. Oh, that came out. That looks kind of interesting. So actually, I rented it at a rental ability that I have online.
You went to the former location of a video rental store, got an idea, went home, and rented it the way you rent movies now.
Exactly right. That's not fair. But it's true. So I did get a chance to watch this, and rated R for language, violence, Lots of blood and gore and everything like
gory.
that. Yeah, it really is. Well shot, and performances overall are strong, but once again, we've seen this a million times. What I did think was interesting, and it's a little bit, the people, when they kidnap this young woman, they're basically, for want of a better term, good people. I think this is kind of the little twist, that they do it. I mean, clearly they know it's against the law, but they think they're kidnapping a super wealthy, the daughter of a super wealthy diamond czar, and they're going to be able to get lots of money. They tell this woman, you know, we're not going to hurt you. Look, see, the gun is empty, blah, blah, blah. But she turns out to have
some issues.
She's got a lot of demonic powers.
Something going on inside her.
And we find out that her family hasn't fared much better than our captors are going to. So the rest of it is just watching this play out. I thought, with the exception of the fact that the script is pretty lame, performances were fairly strong. You brought up the interesting point, and I didn't even bother looking at who our actors were because I didn't recognize any of them. But they all have what seem to be European names. So I'm not sure if this was domestically shot, obviously released this way. So I don't know the origin of this film. But overall, if you haven't seen a lot of captive movies, if you haven't seen a lot of horror movies and things like that, it was certainly very well done. I'd just seen it before, so wasn't crazy about House on Willow Street.
Maybe someday I will watch it if I have the time.
Okay.
Currently, I don't have the time.
Good luck catching up over the next couple weeks.
Yes, I will try. We have actually to quote, to reference Three Amigos, a plethora of films that are coming your way on video.
From whom might we be receiving these?
Do you think they might be from Arrow?
Would it be
by
our
any
friends
chance?
at Arrow? Thank you.
Actually, Arrow, there's a film that's a Netflix premiere that we'll be talking about,
Right.
sadly a little late, but I mean, Netflix, it's going to be there. And another film, excuse me, another film that's an AGFA release on video. So not just Arrow, but a mix of genre and non-genre stuff. Arrow's getting really interesting with putting out, well, we can talk about it. One of the films coming out from Arrow next week is Ronin, the Frankenheimer action, one of his final, if not his final film, which is really surprising to me because Arrow initially was like Euro horror and all kinds of goofy stuff, but Ronin is like a straight, legitimate, mainstream Hollywood action, shot in Europe, a Hollywood action movie. So we'll have Ronin, we'll have a film called Effects, the film with Numi Rapace and Willem Dafoe, whose title I can't think of right now.
What Happened on Monday?
What Happened to Monday, it's called, which looks really interesting. And however many more we can fit into the next show. That'll be a challenge, as Clouseau would say. But that's really all we have to talk about for today. Let me throw one recommendation in if I can.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Smokey and the Bandit, and call me crazy, but it brings me joy, it makes me happy. I was at the Bull Moose that we talked about earlier, and on the wall they had a new Blu-ray edition of Smokey, and I have the Pursuit Pack, which was the first 3 movies on DVD.
Okay.
First one I love the first one. Second one, every time I watch it, I'm like, maybe this time I'll like it. Nope. And the third one has its charms, but it's not that great either. So I didn't have Smokey on Blu-ray, and they had a version of that, and it came packaged with this documentary that was it was produced, I think, for or by CMT, Country Music Television Channel, called The Bandit, which ostensibly is a feature-length documentary about the making of this film.
Wow.
And I love the movie, so great. And I'd seen clips, and there was behind-the-scenes footage and photos. I'm like, well, I haven't seen any of this stuff before. Contemporary interviews with them back then. What it really is it is a feature-length film that's really about the relationship between Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham, how they were like best friends and they worked in each other's projects, and it was a history of each guy, and it's really more about Hal Needham. But he was an amazing, really funny, really cool guy who made some of my favorite movies. So if you go out and you buy this new edition of Smokey, you get the Smokey extras, you get Smokey, and you get this hour-and-a-half, 2-hour documentary that's really good and really funny and has access to all these people about stunt work in the 60s and 70s and the making of this movie that was almost an independent film that they got made on the reputation of Burt Reynolds alone, and it's just really cool. So I would say if you're a fan of Smokey, like I'm a fan of Smokey, even if you already own it, this new version Blu-ray, it's going to look and sound better than it ever has for you, but you get a feature-length documentary that's really cool, and it's actually one of those documentaries that I'm going to watch again and again because it's really good. So that's my video, off-the-cuff video corner recommendation for this week, in lieu of any Arrow titles. So we will not be doing a show next week.
That's correct.
And if you watch a rerun of this show next week, see you next week for a new show. We'll be having a jam-packed episode with far less of this kind of banter. So until then, I am Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are
the Cinemaniacs.